You're tuned in to the Foxboro BeatCast, a podcast for Patriots fans by Patriots fans. And here are your hosts, is Kaleb McChesney and Ryan Moore.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Foxboro BeatCast. I'm your host, Kaleb McChesney. I know I promised Ryan would be back this week, but 'tis the season to be sick. Fa la 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 la. In any case, Elsio, you have come in to step in once again. No need to do any of the holiday pleasantries. You were here since then. So, how was your week 17? 18.
Week 17. Week 18 was fine. Steelers blew it at the end of that Bengals game. I guess it didn't matter too much if you ask a Cincy fan, since Carson Wentz apparently is not very good at football, and neither are most of the Chiefs' backups.
I wonder if Kansas City would rather play Denver in the playoffs had it come to that instead of Joe Burrow, who can sometimes have their number.
I'm sure it doesn't hurt their feelings to see Joe Burrow sitting at home.
No, and it surely doesn't hurt yours. But this is a Patriots podcast, damn it. And we're going to talk some Patriots football. We'll talk about the Steelers, I guess, in a little bit later. You guys have a big wild card weekend matchup on Saturday night that we'll talk about. But there was a Patriots game played on Sunday. The New England Patriots win. They beat the Buffalo Bills 23-16. They improved to 4-13. Joe Milton makes his real NFL debut. Technically not a start, but he played the most of the game. He played all but one drive. He went 22 of 29, 241, and a touchdown with a touchdown on the ground. Kayshon Boutte, 7 catches, 117 yards, and a touchdown. The Patriots obviously descend from the first pick to the fourth pick with that win. We'll have a bit of a reaction to that we'll chat about. But I think any feeling about the game that was played quickly came to an end, LCO. I'm not sure if you caught this, but about 90 minutes after the game, Robert Kraft informed Jerod Mayo that his services will no longer be needed, and he is out as the New England Patriots head coach for 2025, a one-and-done season after a 4-13 campaign. A lot of emotion, a lot of expectations that weren't met. There's a lot of feeling that goes on with that situation. Not to say that I think we said last week that we felt like this was something that had a pretty good chance of happening, and was well warranted. But my initial reaction is just how bad I feel for Jerod. He wasn't put in a position to succeed at all. The roster was barren of talent thanks to Belichick's lack of ability to identify young talent coming out of college for the past 5 years or so. And then obviously he didn't have a giant network of coaches that he could bring in. So naturally he promoted DeMarcus Covington to defensive coordinator, and the Patriots ended up having the last ranked defense in the National Football League by many metrics. And obviously Alex Van Pelt was the 12th interview of 12 candidates last year for the offensive coordinator position. And we ended up with I think we've ranked 27th overall in offense, last in passing offense. I think we were 20th in rushing offense. But yeah, I feel bad for Jerod because I really like him. I think the players loved him. They liked playing for him. But obviously when you go 4-13 and you're getting blown out in all of your losses, the vibe wasn't there. The immediate improvements could be made. So obviously Mr. Kraft says, okay, we got to admit the mistake here. And he so did. If you haven't heard the statement before, I'm about to read it to you. I'm sure that a lot of you have already read it. This came out on Sunday after the game, not 90 minutes after the game. So if you have any thoughts on the timing of it, I'd be happy to hear it, Elsio. But the statement reads as followed. After the game today on Sunday, I informed Jerod Mayo that he will not be returning as the head coach of the New England Patriots in 2025. For me personally, this is one of the hardest decisions I have ever made. I have known Jerod for 17 years. He earned my respect and admiration as a rookie in 2008 and throughout his career for his play on the field, his leadership in the locker room, and the way he conducted himself in our community. When he joined our coaching staff, his leadership was even more evident as I saw how the players responded to him. When other teams started requesting to interview him, I feared I would lose him and committed to making him our next head coach. Winning the season opener on the road in Cincinnati only strengthened my convictions. Unfortunately, the trajectory of our team's performance throughout the season did not ascend as I had hoped. Since buying the team, I've always considered myself and my family as custodians of a public asset. How about that corporate lingo? We have tremendous fans who expect and deserve a better product than we have delivered in recent years. I apologize for that. I have given much thought and consideration as to what actions I can take to expedite our return to championship contention and determined this move was the best option at this time. I am grateful for Jerod's many contributions to the New England Patriots throughout his career and will always be rooting for his success. I appreciate all his hard work and hope the experiences gained will help him in the future, as I still believe he will be a successful head coach in this league. I wish Jerod and his family nothing but success in the future. Again, this was posted 90 minutes, not even, after his post-game press conference.
Yeah, I believe Robert Kraft when he says that this was one of the hardest things he's had to do.
He seems super sincere.
Just watching the press conference after the firing, he seemed like it was really hard, that he felt really bad. And I think the timing speaks to that. Just, you had to get it out of the way. And I think we agreed it kind of had to be done at this point. It was becoming harder and harder to defend keeping Mayo. I think he'll find other employment somewhere at some capacity and hopefully build up that network and experience over time.
No, I think Kraft in his press conference really emphasized that, yeah, we just didn't give him enough time and experience before this role was thrusted upon him, and ultimately it exploded. So before we dive into the coaching stuff, I feel like we should talk about the Patriots winning that game. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about the gameplay at hand? Like, what did you think of Joe Milton? Like, do you have any kind of lingering thoughts about the game on Sunday at all before we get into the conspiracy talk that I kind of want to just slap Patriots fans over?
Joe Milton, he showed some of the traits you'd expect, pretty big arm, athletic. The backflip after the touchdown on the option was cool. Yeah, he looked a bit more polished than I thought otherwise. It was kind of, a fine game. Lots of chemistry with Kayshon Boutte, it seemed. You could tell that y'all were playing backups for the most part.
No, each team cleared out their practice squad for this game. And ultimately, the Bills just sucked worse than we did. Obviously, there's talks that, Jerod Mayo knew he was getting fired, so he screwed the Patriots out of the first pick. Maybe the Patriots should have tried harder to lose, yada, yada, yada. All this tanking bullcrap. So I ask you, did Jerod Mayo reverse throw this game and go for the win out of spite to Mr. Kraft, or is this just how football works and Patriots fans need to get over it?
Those Patriots fans are crazy. I think we agreed before the game. At the end of the day, these players and coaches want to come out and win football games, and we said they should try to do that. And it just so happens that they did do that. I don't think it was a spite move or blowing up the tank, so to say. I think if Robert Kraft was given the choice, he would have wanted to win that game, personally.
Yeah, so we're not buying into the conspiracy theory bullcrap, just to...
No.
Good, because we're not a conspiracy theorist podcast here. If you want your conspiracy theories, the good listen on 98.5 The Sports Hub, Joe Murray on the night show. He'll give you plenty of conspiracy theories for you guys to listen to, and I enjoy listening to them myself. But no, I think in this case everything is as it appears. Robert Kraft is not going to go downstairs and tell Jerod Mayo to throw the game. Elliott Wolf is not going to go downstairs and tell Jerod Mayo to throw the game. Jerod Mayo is not going to go to Alex Van Pelt and tell him to throw the game. Van Pelt is not going to tell his quarterbacks to throw the game. Like, it's ridiculous. This is the National Football League. These guys are professionals. Maybe the Bills just sucked worse than you do, and I would more believe that the Bills really, really, really didn't want to win this game, and a message was sent to don't mind if you lose this game, don't try so hard, so the Patriots don't get that first overall pick. But I don't think there was any malice on the side of Jerod Mayo to throw this game because he knew he was getting canned. And I don't think he was canned because he won this game. I think this decision was made before this game. Obviously, with a press release that I just read to you guys on the podcast here, lines up with the idea that, yeah, this was premeditated and it was ready to go. This was the decision that was going to be made. So yeah, I don't buy that this was treason or a spite move to the Patriots.
And the Crafts really value relationships, and they have a rich one with Jerod Mayo. I don't think they fire someone that they care about so much just on the spot because he won a football game.
Patriots fans, they go to the bottom of the draft one time and they don't know how to act anymore. But the Patriots are locked in at number 4, obviously, after this week's events. I believe the top 3 are the Tennessee Titans with the number 1 pick, the Cleveland Browns with the number 2 pick, and the New York Giants with number 3.
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Okay. So we'll talk about what we expect at 4 a little bit later. I'm interested to see what you think. I think you already know what I think based upon what I said in the chat earlier, but we'll go over it. But first things first, let's talk about Jerod Mayo getting fired. What is like your instant reaction to that? Obviously, we're a couple days removed, but you're sitting there on Sunday night and you see the tweet come through that Jerod Mayo has been relieved of his duties as head coach of the New England Patriots. Like, what was your initial reaction to that?
My initial reaction, just with no context, was, wow, that was fast.
Seriously.
Season just ended. But now, I get it. I think Robert Kraft did put a lot of thought into this decision. I truly don't believe he wanted to do it, but it had to be done. It was the right call.
No, for sure. We kind of went over the reasons why he kind of had to go. And listen, I wanted it to work just as much as the next guy. I mean, if you've been listening to this podcast all season, first things first, God bless you. Second, I have been very patient and very pragmatic about Jerod Mayo. I've been his staunchest defender. I've been saying, give this time, give this patience. But when you regress as bad as we did throughout the year, you have to make a move. And a lot of that is coaching. Maybe a good part of it is personnel, and a good part of it is Kraft putting him in a bad spot. But Jerod Mayo did some digging of his own grave as well. And I don't want to bury him. The body's still warm here. But it just had to be done. It's hard. I feel for him in a personal respect. I feel for him in a professional respect. As again, this wasn't all his fault. He was inexperienced. He was thrown into it way too early. But maybe the number one person I feel the most bad for is Alex Van Pelt, the offensive coordinator. Just the work that he put into these quarterbacks. I think his play calling sometimes is a little vanilla, a little suspect. You can tell that he didn't call plays often in Cleveland. But the way he just got the most out of Drake May, and then you turn on the game on Sunday, and holy crap, Joe Milton's a competent quarterback. In the first half, anyway. The second half was a little sketchy, but you can just tell that Alex Van Pelt, he's got the chops to be a pretty good coach in this league. Yeah. And then you watch his press conferences and just the way he interacts with players. He seems like an adult in the room. So I fully expect Alex Van Pelt to land on his feet and land in a pretty good job somewhere for sure. If not just as a QB coach. I mean, shit. If we get somebody in here who wants Vrabel to be not Vrabel, we'll talk about Vrabel in a minute. Burying the lead there. If somebody wants Van Pelt to be the quarterback's coach, whoever we hire, and they want to keep him in building just as the QB coach, I would, thank you. I love it. I love it. Drake May loves him, and that's really important. And he seems to be pretty good at his job. So, anything else that I wanted to go over as far as Jerod Mayo? Do you have any final thoughts on Jerod Mayo before we?
I agree with the Van Pelt thoughts. He seemed to get the most out of the quarterbacks, and that's something you want on a staff in the NFL. You want a guy that can get the most out of his players and put work in. But other than that, I think I've covered the firing about as extensively as I can think, too.
You're doing a pretty good job for a guy who's not as in tune with Patriots football. And now it'll be my turn to cover Steelers football for the next couple of weeks. But the Patriots have already interviewed 2 candidates. Former Texans offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton, former Jaguars quarterback, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich. Leftwich was obviously Brady's coordinator in 2020 and 2021. And 2022, I believe. In 2022, he left. He got fired or something, and he interviewed for Jacksonville's head coaching job. As far as guys who are scheduled to be interviewed, Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson seems to be the flavor of the month with teams who need new coaches. And the one and only former Patriot linebacker, former Tennessee Titan head coach. I believe he won a Coach of the Year award, did he not?
He did, indeed.
He did. Mike Vrabel, the other flavor of the month for teams who need head coaches. And then obviously Vikings defensive coordinator, former Patriots linebacker coach, former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores has expressed interest, but the Patriots have not formally requested an interview just yet. We have breaking news.
Oh.
The Raiders have fired Antonio Pierce. We could have saved this for a little bit later. But Antonio Pierce, one and a half and done, I think we can call it. He took over after McDaniels was fired last year, and obviously he was pretty popular in the Raiders locker room that he came back for another year. And obviously 4-12, I think they have like the 5th or 6th or 7th or 8th pick behind us. And Antonio Pierce is fired. Tom Brady, minority owner over there. We'll see what kind of he thinks. Maybe Brian Flores, that's a spot for him. Maybe Mike Vrabel, him and Brady, pretty close. So we'll go over that in our NFL segment because now we have a new coaching opportunity to talk about. That's breaking news, everybody. We don't get to break news on this podcast often. The last time that something happened live, it was when we signed Austin Hooper in like April.
I think I remember watching that.
Yeah. But yeah, Antonio Pierce out as a head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, Patriots. So, Elsio, what do you make of the guys we interviewed between Pep Hamilton, Byron Leftwich? What do you make of Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel? Should the Patriots be interested in Brian Flores? How would you kind of go about this process if you were the Crafts, Elliot Wolf, Alonzo Highsmith, who works in the front office, Robin Glazier? Just kind of your overall kind of view from 1,000 feet. What you're taking in.
So before I say what I say about, these first 2 interviews, I think overall the Rooney Rule is a net positive. It's great and on paper, but I think these guys are getting a little bit of unfair treatment. These interviews were to satisfy the Rooney Rule.
Nope, for
And
sure. It that is worth noting. And I kind of agree with you. I don't think that the Patriots have genuine interest in hiring Hamilton or Byron Leftwich. Um, those just aren't names that were connected to the Patriots at all beginning of this process. But hopefully they improve in the interviews, and Robert Kraft goes to other owners who need looks to say, hey, you should check out Byron Leftwich. You should check out Pep Hamilton for this or this.
But yeah, the Patriots should be very interested in Brian Flores as far, especially if you're working to keep options open because, as I'll allude to later, I believe this is a one-man race so far. I think you have your guy generally picked out, but I do believe the Crafts will go into these interviews with open minds, especially with guys like Ben Johnson.
So pause. Give me your take on Ben Johnson in New England. What's the appeal? Is there anything you're concerned about as it pertains to Ben Johnson as a head coach? Even if what's the word I look for? Especially in New England, like, do you have any concerns there? Strictly New England. Do you have concerns about Brett? What's his name? Brian Johnson.
Ben
Brad Johnson. Oh my God, such a Ben Johnson. God, sorry folks, it's been a long day. Ben Johnson, give me your thoughts overall, pros, cons, all that.
So I think the appeal is, fair. When I bring it up, you'll quickly agree. He's an offensive-minded coach. Seems to be an offensive genius over there in Detroit. Offensive-minded coaches are really good for young quarterbacks. He knows how to scheme guys open, get the most out of offensive players, so far as I can tell. So if you bring him in, you're bringing in a guy to really push Drake May. Some concerns. He's a rookie head coach, not necessarily proven. You're probably looking at a coaching overhaul from what I've read. There might be some other candidates that are more open to keeping some staff in-house. So you'll have to really hope he knows his coordinators and his positional coaches. And it would be a bit of a rough situation to come into as a first-time coach. 4-12 team or 4-13 team. Apologies, I'm back in 2016.
Don't you miss the 16 game season?
Yeah, I'm back.
I just feel that extra week's a little much.
Yeah. So there are valid concerns there with him being unproven, and the Patriots. This is a rebuilding team, and they probably still will be in the 25-26 season. So
I have a question for you before we get to anything further. I should have asked this before we even went into the candidates. So my apologies there. Do you think the Patriots are a desirable job? Because I think they do. I think they are, and I want you to kind of hear my case. Hear me out.
Reasonably
hear me
desirable.
out. You have the number 4 overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft, 2025 NFL draft. Excuse me. Not number 1. Took a bit of a hit, but number 4 ain't bad, especially when you don't need a quarterback. All these people freaking out. Oh, the number 1 pick. You probably weren't getting a crazy trade anyway, because this quarterback class stinks.
Yeah.
And number 2, the teams ahead of you, all 3 of them need quarterbacks. 2 of them definitely are going to take one. The Cleveland Browns have this weird thing with Sean Watson. Who knows what the situation is there? Apparently, he had a setback with his torn Achilles, so couldn't happen to a better guy. So that Patriots have the number 4 overall pick. Number 2, you have good owners who are going to give you a leash. I know it's hard to say that after the Jerod Mayo just got fired after being the handpicked guy, but I think the Crafts are going to be pretty hesitant to fire that coach again. I think if it goes wrong a second time, Elliott Wolf is going to be the guy who gets the yak, and I'm not even convinced that he's going to stay after the draft. Or if they hire Vrabel or Johnson and they're like, oh, I don't want Elliott Wolf controlling my personnel. They might look at you like, oh, well, you know more than we do. See you, Elliott. So there's that. Number 3, this is a great franchise with a lot of prestige. Obviously, it's one of the major markets in sports in Boston. Obviously, the media is harsh, but it's a lot of coverage, a lot of notoriety. The next one, they have a ton of cap space. And the Crafts have said, at the very least, that they are ready to spend. Obviously, we made highfalutin efforts to go get Calvin Ridley and Brandon Ayuk in the last couple of years, just haven't landed home. So I think the Patriots are a desirable destination for a guy like Ben Johnson, specifically because I think he needs the extra motivation to come more than the other guy. I think the other guy's reasons are pretty straightforward, but I just kind of want to get your take on if you think the Patriots are a desirable job. And I'm taking it one step further and saying I think the Patriots are the most desirable job.
I would agree. You got Drake May, young, exciting.
I should have mentioned that. Good job.
Develop and grow. Like you mentioned, the cap, and I believe I heard Robert Kraft say that he is ready to spend to the cap and even exceed the cap as long as they straighten it out within 3 years. You got the high draft pick. I think 4's a better position than 1 in this draft anyways, because with 1, not that you
could get stuck.
Not a deserving player of it, but kind of cornholed into taking Travis Hunter, and you could look elsewhere at 4. I think it's a really desirable job. I'd rather go to the Patriots than the new opening for the Raiders.
Let's go through a list of teams, and you tell me which team's better than the Patriots, huh?
Yeah.
The Jacksonville Jaguars.
No.
Never. Chicago.
No.
The New Orleans Saints.
No, not the Saints.
The Jets.
Woody Johnson. Oh, yeah. No.
And then the Raiders.
No. The closest one is probably Chicago, just because I think Caleb Williams can be good.
But their owners are horrible.
Yeah. Every one of those teams has a clear weakness, and more than one of them, the weakness is the owner.
And I get the criticisms against the Crafts, believe me. I've been skeptical of their spending habits, which is not really spending at all historically. Who knows how much of that is on Bill and how much of that is on the Crafts. I think they were kind of mutually benefiting from each other in that. Bill didn't want to pay players, and Kraft likes to save money. So I think that could have been something for sure. But the Crafts are good owners. They're just in a rut of not so sound decisions, but usually they've been making good decisions. Outside of the last 5 years, I think they're a top end owner group in the league. And I think they're looking to reclaim their spot on the throne as a top tier organization. So I think you could have it a lot worse. Patriots fans don't know how good they have it with Robert Kraft.
Robert Kraft at his worst, or Woody Johnson at his best. Who you taking? I'm taking
Bob Kraft at his worst. Bob Kraft at his worst is a guy who leads with his heart, makes a lot of emotional decisions. But at the end of the day, still really cares about his team.
Yeah.
Woody Johnson, after that athletic story, I'm sorry, no.
Yeah.
Even Woody Johnson on his best day is just ugh. So yeah, Ben Johnson. Have you laid out like your concerns?
Yeah, he's inexperienced. It's a rough spot for an inexperienced coach to try to get his footing, and you're looking at that coaching overhaul, and you gotta hope he has a pretty good network.
And
And
he's
hope
been a
that,
lot of places, to be fair to him.
yeah,
I think he was the UNC graduate. He coached in Miami with Mike McDaniel, I believe. I'll look that up right now. I want to say that Ben Johnson's been around for a little bit. Obviously, no head coaching experience
right.
at only 38 years old. Boston College. He's been local. Miami Dolphins offensive assistant in 2012. Yeah, he was with the Dolphins for a long time, and then he moved to Detroit in 2019. He was the Matt Patricia hire. So
So
yeah,
he probably has a fair network.
yeah. Depends on how you feel about the Dolphins in the early to mid 2010s.
Yeah,
And he was obviously hired by Matt Patricia, and then as Bill Belichick so eloquently put it, the Lions are now reaping the benefits of Matt Patricia's work.
yeah, in a way.
But I think Ben Johnson's a smart coach. My concern is I don't know if he can build a program. And the Patriots are in, I don't want to say turmoil, but obviously when you make an emotional decision like hiring Jerod Mayo, firing him is going to be just as, if not more emotional. A lot of players are already like, what the fuck? Like, Jerod didn't deserve this. They're getting a lot of blowback for that, for sure. So Ben Johnson needs to come in here and establish a culture, and he's never done it before. So
Right.
I'm curious as to how that's going to go. So that'd be my concern. But I think the pluses are like you're going to get that video game offense with Jared that Jared Goff is running with Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I feel like Ben Johnson should be able to identify what good wide receivers look like, which we haven't been able to do in a long, long time. And Drake May's a better quarterback than Jared Goff.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like his ability is better than Jared Goff. He might not be better yet, but Drake May should be better than Goff in due time.
He has more plus traits for sure.
So I think that's the kind of appeal of Ben Johnson. You get that video game offense. It's innovative. It's new. It's the new age of football. And finally, the Patriots are going to be, moving and progressing among the league's best.
Right.
As far as that goes, that's the idea anyway. But Ben Johnson is one of two flavors of the year. Elsio, why don't you get into the other one?
Mike Vrabel, who I think is the lead horse in this race, and I think it's by a comfortable margin. I think, he has the Patriots ties, having played there.
And
I
was a
thought,
great player there. Obviously went to the Patriots Hall of Fame 2 years ago. Yeah, because he got in trouble because he was still coaching for the Titans. It was like their bye week or something. And Vrabel was all buddy with the Crafts. He was like, "Hey, it's not like this everywhere, so enjoy it, Patriots fans." And we have a game to win. Like he was a part of the Patriots,
yeah,
so pissed off the Titans owner a little bit. And then obviously they chose what's his name, Carthon over Vrabel, and Carthon got fired today. By the way, we'll talk about it in a little bit. So yeah, Vrabel obviously has a pretty special relationship with the Patriots.
right. And I thought he was going to be the hire this past off season. I think he really probably could have been. With him, the pros are he has that head coaching experience where he was really good. Won Coach of the Year in Tennessee.
With Ryan Tannehill as his quarterback.
Right. And he has a good coaching network. He's
been a lot of places: Ohio State, Houston, Tennessee, now Cleveland. I think a good thing to add is that he was on the right side of history as far as A.J. Brown. He wanted to pay him, wanted to keep him. The Titans said no, traded him for a first-round pick. That ended up being Traylon Burks. Traylon Burks, who sucks, to say the least.
Yeah, when he's healthy.
Sucks when he's healthy. When he's injured, he's injured. So, yeah, I think Vrabel has a lot of pluses, for sure.
Yeah, he does. And can you think of any cons right off?
Defensive coach. He's not going to be super innovative. He's the old way of doing things. He's a little too close to the Patriot way that I so desperately think this team needs to get away from, doing things the old way, pulling things from Belichick, and just reverting to the old way when things aren't working. I think Ben Johnson is a breath of fresh air. And that's the appeal, that you're going in a direction that you haven't before.
Right.
But Vrabel, he can establish a culture. He can establish a culture and a program. Players are going to buy in because this guy was a former player and he's just a badass. Like, sorry, Mike Vrabel, total badass. The only guy I've seen stare down Belichick in a playoff game and succeed.
Yeah.
So I really like Vrabel. I'm not offended one way or the other with this hire. As long as it's one of those two, I'd be very, very happy.
Right.
So yeah, I think my only concern is he's kind of an old school coach, and I'm not sure if we have if that's a way of going about it. If we're going to progress enough and expedite enough to be in the playoffs, or like after next year, being that playoff conversation. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
But you don't know with Ben Johnson either. But you don't know if Ben Johnson can control a room like the way Vrabel can.
Right.
So, and I'm a little concerned. I'm not concerned. I'm a little curious as far as coaches under Mike Vrabel, like who's going to be his offensive coordinator. The popular name being thrown around obviously is Josh McDaniels, former head coach of the Raiders, obviously longtime offensive coordinator here. He won 3 Super Bowls here with one Tom Brady. I'm more of a McDaniels guy than most people as an offensive coordinator. I think he does really solid. He's a bright offensive mind. His offense is a little different than the one we ran this year with Van Pelt. It's called, it's a difference between a West Coast and a kind of a traditional dissect defense, a lot of pre-snap reads and adjustments. It's a lot to put on your quarterback's plate. And I'd just be curious about how Drake May is going to take that and kind of suck that information in. But I really do believe in Josh McDaniels' program as a offensive coordinator. So I wouldn't mind. I'd just be curious to see what other options Vrabel might think, or if anything else is going to happen. And then obviously if Drake May can handle Josh McDaniels like offense. So that would be my concern with Vrabel.
Yeah, I mean, McDaniels is a bit of a Patriots way name, but that said, he had a lot of success with y'all with Brady, and to the people that might say Brady merchant, Mac Jones had one good year in New England, and you know who the offensive coordinator was?
It wasn't Matt Patricia.
No, it was Josh McDaniels. I think he's good. I'd like to see other options to wait out. Just see. Maybe you could land in. I don't know, but McDaniels isn't a bad name at all. Yeah, I'll be curious to see the staff decisions too, though.
But yeah, I think this is a 2-team race and a 2-horse race, and I think it's going to be Vrabel or Ben Johnson. But I'm personally really excited that Ben Johnson wanted to interview with us, because that just affirmed that I think this is a really good destination for potential head coaches.
I would like to see, because I haven't seen enough yet, I'd like to see enough to make it a 3-horse race with Brian Flores, I think he'd be a quite good hire too.
Flores is interesting. I think that he is a top-end defensive play caller. The way that he calls defenses is among the best in the league, if not the best in the league. He's turning C+ talent in Minnesota into A- performers pretty consistently. My biggest concern, obviously, is his relationship with young quarterbacks.
Yeah,
We all know the Tua interview from the offseason. Tua basically called him a terrible person. For what seems to be valid criticisms, I mean, if Brian Flores was talking to Tua the way that Tua said he was, you can't have that with your young quarterback, your young first-round pick. I'm sorry if he got tied to you or not. You can't berate him like that. You can't just box him out. It's what got Belichick fired here with Mac Jones. Mac Jones might have never been good enough. He probably wouldn't have been good enough. Tua probably isn't good enough.
No.
But you can't destroy them like that.
No,
your first round pick, and then wonder why you got fired.
And that's a very relevant concern, considering.
And another thing, he went through like 4 offensive coordinators in 2 years with Miami.
Yeah, it's very valid concerns there, especially the quarterback one with notable second-year quarterback Drake May on the roster.
Yeah, it's such an important year of development, and maybe Drake May's personality is different, and him and Flores mesh better. That's certainly a possibility. Maybe Flores has learned from his mistake, and he's grown from that. I don't know. We'll see. I think this is truly a 2-man race. I think Flores is going to get genuine interest. I wouldn't be shocked if the Patriots requested for an interview before we finish recording. As of right now, nothing. Right?
Yeah, as far as I know the Jets requested like a while back.
Yep. I think a couple teams have requested. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are your Patriots coordinate. Your Patriots coaching options as of now. I'm sure by next week we may even have a hire by next week. The Krafts are expected to move very quickly on this. It's only Tuesday. Kraft is probably going to meet with Vrabel and Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson virtually. He can't meet in person until after next week, I believe.
Yeah.
That is the rule. So he'll definitely meet with Vrabel in person and Ben Johnson virtually this week. So we'll see what happens. NFL draft preview. Let's talk about the number 4 pick before we get into the coaching carousel around the league and some other things that I wanted to talk about. What prospects should the Patriots like at number 4? Is there any need that is above all others? Again, the Patriots only have 2 or 3 cornerstone players. Drake May, Christian Gonzalez, and Christian Barmore, so long as the blood clots go away.
Yeah.
So I'll name my first one. I posted in the group chat my my first Patriots big board, which is a big board of like 5 players. Scrolling up. Here we go. My number 1 edge rusher, Abdul Carter out of Penn State. And that guy's a freak. And the Patriots defense could use some serious pass rush. I'd love to have him coming off the outside and give this secondary a little help. Make Christian Barmore a better player on the interior. I think Abdul Carter does a lot for your defense. My number 2 is Kelvin Banks, the tackle. You need tackle help. It's the same kind of line of thinking with Will Campbell at LSU, so long as his arms check out and he's big enough to be a tackle. Number 4, Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan, might be the best prospect in the draft overall. Lockdown corner, pair him up with Gonzo with the no-fly zone. And then number 5/6, the top 2 receivers, Ted McMillan out of Arizona and Luther Burden out of Missouri, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are my top because obviously the Patriots need wide receiver help and they need tackle help. But Abdul Carter is my number one. I think he's the most talented guy. I think the edge rush is just so important. And when you have a guy like that, I have a hard time looking at passing him up. But I haven't watched any film yet. I don't watch a ton of college football. And this big board is assuming that the first 3 picks are Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders, and Travis Hunter in some way, shape, or form. So, Elsio, what do you think of that? What do you think the Patriots should do at number 4 if the board follows Ward, Hunter, Sanders, or some order of that? And go from there.
Yeah, I'm with you. At 4, you can be pretty flexible. I really like Ted McMillan and Luther Burden, but if you can address the receivers in free agency because you have so many needs, that would be awesome. I like either one of Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks at tackle. You could use the help there. You need help on defense. Abdul Carter, as he mentioned, freaky. He would be the best edge rusher on the team already. Will Johnson's great. Michael Williams is there too from Georgia. He's a fair edge rusher, but Carter's just so much better. I don't see how you pass on him if you're going there. Overall, you have options, and I think you'll land yourself a really good player here at 4.
So the Patriots fans who are, again, freaking out because they didn't get number 1 need to take a chill pill, right?
Yeah, I agree with you.
How would you rank him?
I don't know if I should rank on talent or need, because it would be tackle.
We need everything, so rank on talent.
Abdul Carter's 1. Then Will Johnson. Then either of 2 receivers. You can interchange them, I feel like, and then the tackles, but admittedly, I don't know that much about O-line. Maybe the tackles should be above the receivers talent.
I've heard this is a weird tackle class, so I'm not offended if you put the receivers above them. But those are your that's your quick little NFL draft talk. Let's get into this coaching carousel. The Patriots aren't the only team searching for coaches. The Jacksonville Jaguars, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Chicago Bears, the New Orleans Saints, and the New York Jets are all looking for new coaches. The Titans are looking for a new GM after Rand Carthon was let go and Brian Callahan will stay. What a mistake that was, firing Vrabel, huh?
Yeah, he should never been fired.
But let's start with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They went 3-14 last year. Peterson went 9-8 the following year. They finished 4-13 this year. Trevor Lawrence got hurt, obviously, with a concussion. And then I think he had a shoulder injury that he had surgery on. The team let go of Doug Peterson, but Trevor Baalke, or Trent Baalke, I forget his name. Baalke's staying in Jacksonville. That guy goes through coaches like I go through water bottles. Like, it's unbelievable just how long that guy has stayed in the NFL. He ruined Jim Harbaugh. He's gotten Doug Peterson thrown out of town. The way that he just survives all these axings is just unbelievable. But the Jaguars are interviewing the following people: Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson of the Lions, Liam Cohen of the Bucks, the offensive coordinator there, Kellen Moore, the OC of the Eagles, Todd Monken, the Ravens OC, Patrick Graham, the Raiders DC. That's a weird request. Robert Saleh, who was obviously fired from the Jets, and Joe Brady, the Bills offensive coordinator. Any thoughts about the Jaguars?
The fact that Baalke is staying makes this one of the most undesirable jobs I've ever seen. I would not want that man controlling the personnel of my team. He's terrible. The ownership's not the best. Fairly talented roster. That's such a strange list of candidates. I don't know who would do best there, to be
Just wait till you
honest.
read the Jets.
I think you want an offensive guy, though, if you can help
Right.
it. If I'm Ben Johnson, I'm not taking this job, though. If I'm Joe Brady, I'm not taking this job either. If I'm
See, that's the
Liam
weird thing
Cohen,
about coaching jobs is that if you take a bad one, you're not going to get another chance
no,
for a long time,
no.
if ever.
So it's strange. It's hard to project because I don't think a coach should take this job, but one's going to have to.
All
I
right,
think
somebody's got
they'll.
to do it. Maybe this is
I
Kellen
think
Moore's. Maybe he decides it's time for him to get a head coaching job.
yeah, he's been in the head coaching rumors for a good while now. Could be. Yeah, I think they're going to chase an offensive coach if they can help it. They might be open to a defensive-minded coach, but I'm looking for offensive-minded there for sure.
All right, the Chicago Bears. Lots of names on this list. Drew Petzing, the Cardinals OC. Brian Flores, the Vikings DC. Arthur Smith, the Steelers OC. Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, obviously. Anthony Weaver. Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys head coach. Mike Kafka, the Giants OC. Mike Vrabel. David Shaw, the Broncos senior personnel executive. Wait. What? They're interviewing a personnel executive to be their head coach? All right. Bears moment. Todd Monken, the Ravens offensive coordinator, and Joe Brady, the Bills OC. I'm not sure with the Bears here, man. I'm just not.
Yeah,
I could see this being a Ben Johnson job.
if he doesn't land with the Patriots, it feels like a Ben Johnson job.
Lots of talent
Uh,
on the
but
offensive side of the ball, anyway.
something that really caught my ear. Did you think Arthur Smith would be getting head coaching interviews again after 1 year?
No.
No, me neither. That's a list. It's a list of candidates. Does felt like a solid Ben Johnson landing spot. I think Aaron Glenn has a pretty solid spot that I think he's landing at. I think it's pretty much set. We'll talk about that later.
What do you think about
But
Mike McCarthy if Dallas doesn't retain him? Which I think they will. But
I don't think Mike McCarthy should be head coaching in the NFL. I don't think he's very good.
I think Mike McCarthy provides a pretty safe floor.
He's stable, yeah.
Like for a guy like Caleb Williams, I think he could do wonders for just getting him stabilized and on the right track. I think that's something that he can do. Maybe he's not going to go out and win Super Bowls like he did 15 years ago.
Right.
But I think Mike McCarthy, you could do a lot worse. You can do a lot better if you can land Ben Johnson. I encourage you to do it. But I do think that Mike McCarthy, along with another coaching candidate we'll get to a little bit later, gets a lot of disrespect.
I do think the stability would be really good, for young quarterback especially after dealing with
Eberflus and his other morons.
Yeah. So you might have converted me on Mike McCarthy there.
I'm not saying he's special or anything, but I just think he can be an adult in the room, which is desperately needed over there.
Yeah.
We already went over the New England Patriots. The New Orleans Saints. Darren Rizzi, obviously, he was interviewed as the interim head coach. They finished 3-4 with him at the helm after firing Dennis Allen. But they've interviewed Aaron Glenn, or they're going to interview Aaron Glenn, Joe Brady, Kellen Moore, David Shaw. Again, the Stanford head coach and the Broncos senior personnel executive. So is this your Aaron Glenn spot?
this is the Aaron
I
Glenn
agree.
spot.
Tell us why.
The Saints seem to always somehow manage a pretty solid defense. And I think Aaron Glenn knows enough offensive minds that he'll have that covered. He's young, exciting. I think he's deserving of a head coaching spot. I don't know. It just feels destined. You know what I mean? Like,
Can you imagine the Lions losing both their coordinators? And they're not going to just lose the coordinators. They're going to lose the coaches under the coordinators because those are going to be their coordinators. Dan Campbell might be all alone.
yeah, he's gonna have to rebuild that staff. That's just. But yeah, this is the spot for Aaron Glenn. They need to hire him quick.
This is my favorite list. The New York Jets. Former general manager Mike Tannenbaum is going to manage this process. They've conducted interviews for a couple of people. They obviously need both a GM and a head coach.
Yeah.
Are you ready for this list of folks?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
For GMs, we'll be quick. Louis Riddick, ESPN analysis. Jim Nagy, the Reese's Senior Bowl executive director. John Robinson, former Titans GM. Thomas Dimitrioff, the former Falcons GM. They're going to interview Mike Borgonzi, Chiefs assistant general manager. Alec Hallaby, the Eagles assistant GM. Ray Farmer, the Rams senior personnel executive. Mike Greenberg, the Buccaneers assistant GM. Trey Brown, the Bengals senior personnel executive. Ryan Grigson, Vikings senior vice president of player personnel. And John Eric Sullivan, Packers VP of player personnel. And for head coaches, Darren Rizzi, the Saints interim head coach. Brian Greasy, the 49ers quarterbacks coach. Matt Nagy, former Bears head coach, Chiefs offensive coordinator. Vance Joseph, Broncos defensive coordinator. Aaron Glenn, Lions defensive coordinator. Bobby Slowick, Texans offensive coordinator. Josh McCown, Vikings quarterbacks coach. Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator. Jeff Ulbrich, their interim head coach. Joe Brady, the Bills offensive coordinator. Arthur Smith, the Steelers OC. Mike Vrabel, that interview's already been completed. My guy Ron Rivera, who I think is getting disrespected by fans throughout this process. He's already done his interview. And my favorite interview of all time, Rex Ryan, Sexy Rexy, got interviewed for this Jets head coaching job, and he's confident he's going to get it. Reporters say this would be a long shot, but anything's possible. I want Sexy Rexy back in the division.
Yeah. On some of those I could see, I see why. But for the most part, Woody Johnson is a very unserious person. But for the memes, let's go Rex
Ryan. Even more unserious.
Let's go Rex Ryan for the memes. I'm here.
You want Sexy Rexy?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. If not, if you're going to go serious, give Riverboat Ron another shot.
Or Brian Flores.
Or Brian Flores. I didn't think about that. Brian Flores would be a pretty good hire there for him.
What do you think about Darren Rizzi? You think he should get a shot?
I don't know enough about the guy, to be honest with.
Went 3-4 with the Saints down the stretch.
That's not terrible with how injured that team was.
You want to see Matt Nagy back in the driver's seat?
No.
I do. I do.
You do, because you'd be watching an unmitigated disaster there in New York.
Arthur Smith, where instead of throwing to Garrett Wilson, he throws to like the corpse of Quincy Enunwa.
Arthur Smith is, if if I had a dime for every list I've heard Arthur Smith on, I'd have to. It's not much, but it's very strange to me to hear that twice.
So we're thinking Sexy Rexy.
I'm hoping, yes.
But if we're going serious, I think Vance Joseph would be a good hire for them.
I think Van Joseph would be good too. That wasn't one of those. I was like, yeah, that's actually a good interview.
Brian Flores would be good. Joe Brady would be good.
Yeah, I do like Joe Brady.
And these GMs, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And that's that for the coaching carousel so far. The Raiders have not requested to interview anybody yet because they just fired Antonio Pierce. The body's still warm on that one. So we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the games at hand and stuff that just happened. The Vikings lost to the Lions on Sunday Night Football in maybe the worst. It wasn't the worst game of all time, but like for such high expectations, the game kind of blew.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? As the Vikings run over the Lions back in the driver's seat as Super Bowl favorites? What's your kind of overall analysis?
I'm going to temper some caution for both of those. I think the Vikings could bounce back, even though that was a very terrible showing from the offense and Sam Darnold in particular. And it's hard to put the Lions back in the driving seat when Jared Goff also very much regressed in that game. Just so happened that the Vikings sucked worse, but the Lions do get the bye to address that, which helps. David Montgomery, I believe, might be back for the playoffs. That maybe helps, even though Gibbs did pretty good without him, I'll be honest. I don't think the Magic's necessarily over, and the Lions are about in the same spot for me, maybe a bit more favorable.
I read somewhere that Shad Khan would fire Balky if the new coach wanted him to. So at least there's that.
Yeah, if I'm the new coach, I'm asking for that immediately.
Please fire him, please. All right, what else do I have on the list? Mike Evans obviously not passed, but he tied Jerry Rice for 11 seasons of 1,000 yards or more consecutively. Obviously, they did that by a pass with like 20 seconds to go with the game already sealed up. What do you make of that? Is this a Mickey Mouse record? Do you take it seriously? Do you think Mike Evans is a Hall of Fame receiver? All that.
I'm going to be controversial and say this isn't a Mickey Mouse record. He would have had it cleared easily if he didn't have the hamstring injury already. I respect the hell out of the team for doing that, making sure he got it, doing right by him. As far as Hall of Fame,
He's got Super
Bowl champ, right? He has that.
11 seasons of 1,000 yards or more.
Yeah, the stats are good.
Turned Johnny Manziel into a first overall pick, or not a first round pick.
I mean, I would say yes, but he's not like you're not. It's not like looking at Megatron or something. Like he might not even necessarily be first ballot, but I think he deserves a Hall of Fame spot.
Obviously, the Hall of Fame nomination. Some of the Hall of Fame finalists were announced. I'm going to give you one name. Tell me if they're first ballot or not.
Okay.
Eli Manning.
Not first ballot.
Yes, first ballot. What are you talking about?
I just don't see it. He has two Super Bowls.
2 Super Bowl rings. You can't tell the story of the NFL without Eli Manning. He was obviously the league's Iron Man for a long time before, McAdoo decided to bench him for no reason.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was a gamer in the playoffs. He has, I guess, longevity passing stats, but I mean, like, what are you going to do? Like, he played for a long time and he was pretty good. So be it. Yeah. I think he's the first ballot Hall of Famer. If he didn't have 2 rings, If you didn't beat the 17-0 Patriots or 18-0 Patriots, like maybe it's a little different. But like, it's not like he fluked into the Super Bowl twice. He went to the Super Bowl twice, had 2 really impressive playoff runs, and he won the Super Bowl twice.
Yeah, I mean, my argument generally had been that he'd be Hall of Fame, but not first ballot. But you make a good case for first ballot. It's just he had plenty of seasons where he didn't make the playoffs.
Oh yeah, no, he definitely had his dirt fests for sure.
And the slowing toward the end of the career maybe soured it a bit for me. But I'll say this: if the Hall of Fame committee, whoever votes on that, decided, well, vote Eli Manning in first ballot, I wouldn't be offended. I just don't know that they will do that.
Some people will be offended if he gets voted in first ballot.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping for it. It'll
Some
piss
will
off
be
all the right
offended,
people, you know?
but I won't be.
MVP talks. Okay, who's the MVP of the NFL this year?
Lamar
Gun to your head.
Jackson.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why you say that?
I mean, he's just having a similar season to what he did when he won it last year.
He's better than when he won it last year.
Yeah, actually, that helps my case a bit.
Did he deserve to win it last year, though? Who were the other nominees last year?
I don't know, actually.
NFL MVP voting. Let's see. Lamar Jackson he was unanimous? Lamar
Really,
Jackson was unanimous MVP last year?
he must have been. I didn't know that.
Oh my God. Josh Allen was the only other first place vote.
Right, and I don't know, like, I can't build a case for Lamar Jackson over Josh Allen. Now that
Josh Allen had a pretty good year last year. This year the yards are down, but the interceptions are down as well.
just sitting and thinking about it, I lied to you. I can't build a case for Lamar Jackson over Josh Allen.
Why is that?
Josh Allen's doing all this with not really all that much to speak of for talent. I mean, James Cook is a good running back. Coop kind of turned it on. Keon Coleman's an exciting rookie. Khalil Shakir's a fine too. He's electric. Less turnovers, cut those down. That was his big weakness. Without Josh Allen, the Bills would blow. But you can maybe make the same argument for Lamar and the Ravens.
I think it's a 2-team race. I think it's Lamar versus Allen. I think if the Bengals had made the playoffs, it'd be hard for me to not vote for Joe Burrow. Right. Obviously, the 40 touchdowns. How many yards does he have this year? I feel like his stats are just absurd this year.
Joe Burrow probably led the league in passing yards. Let me look at that.
4,900 yards, 43 touchdowns, 9 picks.
Yeah, very good. Like MVP stats. If they made the playoffs,
I'd have voted for him if they did the playoffs. But we all know how the award works. And my gut says Josh Allen. I feel like he's the better player this year. Even if Lamar's having a better year than he did last year in the stats, Lamar's has improved. I just feel like it's Josh Allen's year. This is Josh Allen's MVP. That's just kind of how I feel about it. Like, the MVP is weird. It's inconsistent. Not always the best player doesn't always get it. There's some nuance to it, and it's inconsistent. It's weird. But I just feel like in my gut, Josh Allen is the MVP this year.
The narrative matters as almost as much as the stats, I would say, for MVP. But yeah, I was just sitting and thinking about it, and maybe someone more qualified could, but I couldn't build the case I thought I could for Lamar over Josh Allen.
I wouldn't be totally offended, but I'm just like in my gut, in my heart, this is like it's Josh Allen's year. This is
Yeah.
his MVP. And listen, man. While we kind of segue into playoff topics here, we get into the games. Is there a team, a player with more pressure to win this Super Bowl than Lamar Jackson?
No. No.
Like it just feels like he has to get this done, or else it's never, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there's a player with more pressure.
And he's gonna have to beat the Bills in Buffalo, assuming the Bills beat the Broncos on Sunday at 1:00 or 12:30, whatever that game's kickoff. And then they're gonna have to go to Arrowhead if they beat the Bills.
Yeah, and
Lamar doesn't have a very good record against the Chiefs.
And he's going to get the hell beat out of him against another AFC North team in the first round. And AFC North games can get weird.
No, right. I mean, the Ravens are 10-point favorites. I feel like that's a little disrespectful. Because it's the in-division playoff game. Like, I'm sorry. I know the Steelers kind of bent over for him the last time they played. But you never know. And Lamar in the playoffs, a really bad resume.
Yeah, not good.
I could totally see the Steelers just like playing this wicked close, wicked physical, and winning this, maybe. But at the very least, giving Lamar Jackson hell.
Yeah.
And then after that, he's going to go into Buffalo and beat Josh Allen and the Bills. In that extreme weather, in that extreme condition, with those rowdy fans, I don't see it. And then if that happens, he's going to go into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. No.
It's a gauntlet. I don't know if anyone could clear that gauntlet.
I think the Bills in Arrowhead, I could see it. I think the Bills with Josh Allen, they have some magic pixie dust. They're going for it. Then this wasn't even the year that they were supposed to be competitive. Like they're just happy to like be the number 2 seed right now and like just living it up. They really are. I don't think there's any team happier than Buffalo is to be this competitive in a year where they're supposed to be rebooting.
Yeah, I'm impressed by what they've done.
Ultimately, I think Kansas City goes back to Super Bowl, but
yeah.
On the NFC side, it is a much more kind of open argument in some respects. The Lions obviously get the bye week. They needed that. They needed that bye week.
Desperately.
To get healthy, David Montgomery's going to come back. Aiden Hutchinson's going to get another week to get healthy and hopefully come back for his team late. I believe there's some other guys on the defense. Terry Arnold had the foot contusion.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how long he's going to be out for, if that's a week-to-week thing or whatever, but everybody on that defense gets a chance to get healthy again.
Yeah.
And the rest of the conference, the Rams are very good. They're scary.
Yeah.
And they're going to be well rested because they rested all their starters on Sunday and left Jimmy G out to dry. The Vikings obviously still super talented. I'm just worried that magic has run out. It's easy to spiral in the NFL. It's easy I could easily see Sam Darnold throwing 4 picks next week and just like tanking everything that we said about him and gassing him up. The Eagles, I think top to bottom have the most talent in the league on one single NFL roster. Like they're going to be hard to beat. I think they're going to give Detroit a run for their money if they make it to the NFC Conference Championship. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are gritty. The Commanders are gritty. Yeah. What do you think about the NFC?
Yeah, the NFC feels like an open field. Like if Minnesota can get it back on and beat the Rams, they're going to compete with the team. If the Rams win, they're going to compete. Tampa or Washington would be a real pain in the ass Green Bay's a non-factor for me for the most part.
Yeah, I feel out on Green Bay.
Yeah, Philly's just so much better, and that talent in Philly makes them really a potent threat. And Detroit, that bye week really is huge for him. Goff can get his head right over a bye week, while Darnold has to get straight back into it, health, getting healthy. The NFC is going to be a battle through and through. Each game, for the most part, I think will be a battle of some sort.
And we missed a game on the AFC side that we can talk about. Chargers, Texans. The Texans obviously get that Saturday at 3:30 slot. They've just kind of been resigned to that. I'm sorry. I think the Chargers are going to stomp them. Like, I don't think the Texans are going to be all that competitive.
Yeah, CJ Stroud has kind of regressed in his
Sophomore
second
slump for sure.
He's had the sophomore slump. Tank Dell, obviously we saw that injury. TBD on whether or not he can even play again. Diggs has been out for most of the season. Nico Collins is good.
The ACL tear for Diggs, right?
Yeah, right. Yes. Nico's good. Mixon's been a good running back. Their defense is passable. Okay.
It just feels like they kind of backed into it in a really soft division, and the Chargers are just gonna roll.
Yeah, the Chargers have been a team that were much better than I expected them to be.
And that game in Arrowhead for the divisional round, that might be fun. I think the Chargers win it, but it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, the AFC West, shout out to them sending 3 teams, I'm pretty sure.
And maybe the Raiders come back to it if they make the right coaching hire.
Here's to hoping.
Because they got 3 good coaches in that division with Sean Payton, Andy Reid, and Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I was really low on Sean Payton, but after this year, I come to realize I was wrong on him.
Is Bo Nix better than we thought?
I think both Bo Nix and Sean Payton are better than I thought.
Seriously. All right, so who's your final 4? Like, who's going to be the final? I think it's the 1 and 2 seed both ways. I think it's Chiefs, Bills, Lions, Eagles.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. Just thinking about it, that's what I had to.
And I'm gonna say the Chiefs they get their chain back against the Bills and Arrowhead for that AFC title game, and that Eagles Lions game can go either way. I think some of it feels like Team of Destiny with Detroit.
Yeah.
Some of it is you gotta ride with the talent that's on that Philly roster. So I don't know. I'm not comfortable picking an NFC team.
I'm going to be controversial and say whoever wins the NFC is going to win the Super Bowl.
So you think the Chiefs' magic can't get them the whole thing? They're not going to three-peat?
I don't think the Chiefs beat the Lions or the Eagles this year.
There you go. If the Bills beat the Chiefs in the AFC title game, could you see the Bills beating the Lions and the Eagles?
No. I think the NFC's taking the Super Bowl this year. It's just a gut feeling.
The Bills already beat the Lions in Ford Field.
Yeah. And it was a decently comfortable win, but...
Yeah, I mean, it looked close by the end, but the Bills ran away with it.
Yeah.
Their defense was just so beat up. Who knows if the defense is back healthy in the Super Bowl? Who knows?
Yeah. It's a good point, though. I don't know. I'm just feeling the NFC here.
Gun to your head, Detroit or Philly?
Detroit.
So you're thinking Detroit wins the Super Bowl?
I think so, but I wouldn't be shocked if Philly proves me wrong. But gun to my head, give me the Lions. I've just seen it from them all year consistently, for the most part.
At least one of us is willing to pick a side of the fence. I'm firmly on it. But yeah, before we sign off, let me make sure that we didn't miss any breaking news. As soon as I close this, it'll be like the Patriots have hired Rob Gronkowski as their coach. But Elsio, you were a gem once again for coming on. Got a nice hour 20 of content. Anything you'd like to say to the beautiful people at home?
Yeah, I'm always glad to be on. Sorry to the folks that expected our good friend Ryan Moore. Well wishes to him. I'll be excited to see him back on too. And yeah, I hope everyone has a good wild card weekend. I know the Patriots won't be there, but it's still football, fun watches. And hope the off season treats us all well.
Amen. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe. Make sure you follow the show on Facebook and follow the page on Facebook. Obviously, subscribe on the YouTube channel, put on the notification bell, all that good stuff. As the season's come to a close, your Patriots finish 4-13, and another season with a head coaching search begins. So it's going to be a long road. Hopefully, by this time next week, we have a new head coach that we can talk about. Thank you all for watching. We will see you all next week.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Foxboro BeatCast. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Instagram.